I am live. Uh, Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm hoping I can see this on my Facebook. Just let me know as you come on and read the short adoration. Very significant night. Tonight is the USA decrees that come from the secret Counsel of the Lord. So, Jacqueline, good to see you. And I wrote you in your comment. I really appreciate you just learning the hope language, what you're doing, and knowing the four types of hope we want to give people. We want to give them childlike hope, carefree hope, hope after hope, and hope unseen. So, and we want to guide them to our hope journey. And so, as people come on, what we're going to really make clear from December and moving forward is just this hope journey. Lee, so wonderful to see you. So this hope journey is just so much deeper and richer, and it enables us in times like this to be marvelous comrades and come together and be able to go step by step through a journey. I mean, Sonia, good to see you. This reality is growth. This is human development in God, spiritual development. And He's really taking us to a higher place. It's when the challenges get greater, then God says He brings up an arsenal that's greater. So if we just judge ourselves by the common grace that we knew before the challenge, then we won't be able to meet the challenge with a faith and a hope that pleases God, that pleases us. So tonight, we're going to open up just the understanding. Good to see you. Thank you for the love. Cliff, good to see you. It's been a while. It's our family here. And just, this is a line of demarcation where we are entering into some gifts of God and some tools that He's releasing to us in this hour. The time capsule is opening so that we can have the grace, have the stature, have the sonship and the authority to be able to decree, to direct what God wants in the land and agree with Him. So, Wendy, I'm really glad you're on. And I do want to talk to you about a curriculum that for everybody that has an idea of what we do, we've been set apart for a hope reformation to trumpet that across the nations, and 50 million people will go on it. And we were headed that direction. And then I had my heart quit on me, and it just has been physical challenges since then. The good part of it is that it caused me to do Psalms 131. When I said, my eyes are not haughty, nor am I proud, nor do I involve myself in matters too great for me, but I lay my head on His chest and I rest. So, hi, Mike. It's a perfect night to be on. Mike Town, who we lived in Zimbabwe together. We only lived 60 miles away from each other. I just don't know why he ignores me and doesn't come see me more. And I just got to pray with you every week. You got to come on Thursdays again. And Wendy, we got to see a time that you can come in and we can just get some curriculum done, because you did the adoration, the hope journey in prayer. And it's a different type of prayer, hope prayer, new encounter pathway. It'll change everything for everybody. The delight to find in prayer. But now it's to be updated with the tools. Linda Everline, you're sharp, and we just have you as one who's communicating to some, but I know you got a very busy schedule. So I thought about you're just in the content area, and being able to look at some of our content and just add your heart flavor to it and clean it up a little. Like tonight, I have these from the dreams I have decrees. And I'm going to give you a background on that here in a second. I'm just waiting until some of the, um, people come on. They come on just saying hello to you guys. Brandon, hello to you to Bend, Oregon. You are going to help Oregon go around the bend. Sounds gamesicle, but you ring the bell. That's your last name. Michael is a warrior for our God and love. I'm honored to have you guys on tonight. And we're going to jump in. This will be very rich tonight. So let me say this, that we always up and up with adoring him. And every time I meet with somebody, Carlos is writing Wendy a friend request. Carlos, don't send it to me. I'll be nicer to you than Wendy. No, you just come on, and I had a problem where I put up Bob Jones and I would have on Thanksgiving we'd meet and did that for a number of years, and he would have me play Kate Smith, and Kate Smith sang "God Bless America" at a time that it was McCarthy and the communists were taking over. It seemed like, and it was just so you got to listen to it. It's just from the heart of God, blessing our nation. Hey, Danny, good to have you on. I'm going to mention about your book here. So there was another thing that we'd listen to, and it was about, the flag standing, the Star Spangled Banner. And in it had that women and children were in the fort while they were attacking. And that wasn't completely true, that the women and children had mostly got out beforehand, then they got out. So Facebook just said, kind of went with the fact check company, Politico, fact checked me and canceled it out. And then has really fought me on the algorithm where, I was getting 30,000 people and, it was 150 or something, So they have, there's something that the Lord is doing with their hearts, and it's going to be profound. And so, we don't lose hope. And, I was able to talk to some and just say, hey, I had made a plea about, worthy. I have a right to have my thoughts and my opinion. And so there's just good things happening where there's civil discourse, but strong discourse. And we can be who we are and be proud of who we are and not poor fundamentalists and be able to make our point. But I would love you to sign up as fans on this, just to know that they're allowing it to grow. So if you haven't, or others, this is going to be an important channel. I probably will go to YouTube as a primary, but if anybody knows how to do cleanup on a YouTube channel, there's just a lot of old things and even things that aren't mine that are on there that just, it needs to be cleaned up. And is to be potent. I'm a person that prophetic. In the prophetic, got two types. One that bless, and the others that build. And so Zechariah said, I didn't come with bombastic speech to just bless and ignite. He said, I came as a farmer. I laid one seed, then another seed, then another seed. And if you follow the prophetic I've had from 2019 to 2020, it's been seeds. About a month and a half ago, or before Amy, 2 years ago, I said, Amy will be the next Supreme Court person in the right time. And the little woman in her shoes, she had so many children, she knew what to do. And I had sent 2,000 that got of the Trump card. And it's not about accuracy, it's about God speaking to us and endorsing it and making it clear. And people, oh, hi, Tammy. I'm so glad you're on. I'm just going to take a pause, and Tammy is part of our subscription. And if anybody wants to be, it's just we really started it off with this big, important concept where I know friends that are prophetic, and they'll pray for people, and just a workman's worth his wages. You don't pray people for prophecy, but just it's more development. I ran a company, and so when I look to pray for an individual, I just ask some quantitative questions before the Lord about where they're at, and then same thing about where they're to go. There's excellent questions from a place of wisdom or foresight. You can ask them for your own life. If you don't have a roadmap, then you flounder. And then the spirit of counsel, which these are all in Isaiah 11. They're angelic helpers. They come and they sit at a table, and you say, okay, spirit of understanding, where am I at compared to where I need to go? It's like in Revelations, they said to the church, I know where you live, Jesus did. I understand where you're at. And then he says, and I know where you're to go. So that's the wisdom, foresight. And then spirit of counsel tells you how to get there. And, when I lived in Israel on a kibbutz and with patriarchs, we'd spend the nights, and I got to be with the senior council there because I played chess, and they wanted to play somebody who they thought was decent, play chess with them back there. And one guy was a master. My dad had been a master in chess, so I could hold my own. But the conversations were priceless, and the development of human beings and the way they observe them. Good cattleman knows his cattle, and just help them with tools to be developed. So that's why they say Jewish people, my son, the lawyer, the doctor. In other words, they know that they've gotten the input to excel in life. And, you can get lawyers and doctors, that doesn't mean anything. Well, it does. It shows a level of quality, just focus. If it was to dictate to a child what to be, then it's wrong. But it's discovering. So I met artists out there on the kibbutz. I met creative geniuses because they were given the right tutorship, mentorship. And in wrestling, I improved greatly when I had those that knew how to do development. So we have this subscription, and Tammy is part of it, and we had big plans, and we've got people that pray for people, but we're taking people through development steps, and it's through the process of the yellow house. So we're the first places of porch swing, and we pray about how their feet are to be oiled, and so Jesus can take them into this journey of becoming a royal reformer, and it's going to bring out the best human beings and the most equipped that the world has ever seen. It's all based on seeing his faces. And the next room is his heart's desire room. And that's where you get to see his heart's desire. And he shows you his heart's desire for you. If people don't have that and they're not locked into that every day, then they'll flounder. I wake up with the purpose of pleasing his heart in a certain way, according to how the heart has been wired. So then the next room is delight and or joy, which is you're the sparkle in somebody else's eyes, delight. And that's where he changes everything. You begin to delight in life. And you see, according to his original design, you delight in people, you delight in him, and you're just not the waves of melancholy or the world's all bad. You're able to have the best view in town of his glory. And that's developed, and how you're going to do that to certain realms. Like I met these people in Arkansas that there was a senator, and they in the political realm brought him such a vision of God in politics that he changed a lot of laws for our nation. And so it's remarkable. And they just pottery people, they felt like. So Jacqueline, you're more than what you know. And you're just to help people in the development stages. And the one thing we have that the Lord will get upset with us is if we define ourselves. And if we define ourselves as less than who He says we are, then that's when He'll say, I own you, and I want this kind of life to come through you to make the difference that you're called to make. And He loves you all along the way. So the subscription, consider that. We ask people to pitch in $50 a month because we send a couple of the tools for that room. So, if you're going through the joy room or the delight room or the next room, the BU room, we'll have a couple of tools like the discovery process, and it's so helpful to read them, and it's materials that we've developed. So enough about that, but I do want you to know when we get together what we have that can help build us along the way. So I want to appreciate the Hope benefactors. We have yellow houses. We're getting to get 12 of them. Where God, for 20 years, gave me a dream of just going through the yellow house and of wholeness. And I was scared to death because I saw in there the grief room. I saw in there the courage room. There were rooms I was afraid to go. I saw the love and forgiveness room, and I just had this supernatural understanding of what forgiveness really looked like versus what I was doing in forgiveness. And he just, I came to the end of myself and sat on the porch swing, had a little boy continually with angels outside the yellow house saying, if you go through there and get healed, everybody will get healed. And the Lord was with me. And so I'm going through the yellow house. And right now we're in the Hope hearing room. And it was one of the most difficult rooms to stay in because the bent of our souls is to love misery. And so what you'll hear in the body of Christ across the world is commiserate friends. Like in business, we get together and at the table, the different CEOs, entrepreneurs, we would be talking about who had the biggest crater. Well, I got this person who stole all that, and the other guy would say, well, I went under this way, and I couldn't understand why that's what we would emphasize, but it was, I guess, showing the level of sacrifice we had made to build something, but it was a way to talk. And I just with Bob Frazier started this Joseph company and said we're going to see like Joseph saw, that what the enemy means for evil, God means for good, and bring salvation to a nation, and bring forth these hope centers, these business hope centers. And so there has been an establishing of hope centers, 1,000 hope centers, and we wouldn't have been able to do that without your blessings. You're in there in Zimbabwe. We have schools there that Mike Town knows about. So I want to really encourage you that if you can, in this end of the year time, bless us with funds to co-build these yellow houses now that we're going to park in 12 different areas of the nations, and they will be quasi-sabbatiques. There'll be a place where people come and find help and go through this journey of wholeness. And they're B&Bs, but we're giving more time to groups where we can train them through the joy room and train them through the wisdom room. And the curriculum, like Wendy did for us earlier about adoration, is just the best. And I want you to be able to take those training tools, and even us do a course where you become the best adorers on the planet. And then the training tools of hope, Sharon, I want you to have that hope is it secures, stabilizes, but not only that, it advances us in all situations because hope floats. And if you're that prisoner of hope, the waves get bigger, you float all the higher. Hope makes you see a solution when you didn't in the past. It always does that. Like I had a dream about the times we're in, and that we would have we had 5 waves in 2008 with the challenges from the marketplace, but that we would have 3 waves in 2019. I saw it. I saw this mushroom cloud coming. Lori did a great job of just helping me post with this, and I want to invite you that if you have anything for a web page that's a testimony of hope in your life, or just something about hope breaking through and the victories of the Lord in this time, you know, or something about the yellow house that you've experienced. We are going to make the materials. We just need a little more help to get the materials refined so that we have a content team, but we need more help in just refining the yellow house process, the hope journey process, the hope prayer process, the hope hearing process. These are training processes that we just need to update and would love your help on, because this is a hope team. And, I used to hustle and just work until I got it done. And now I don't, through the doctors, I got to keep my energy. Yeah, it's a wisdom of God so that others get to take their part and run with it and build. And we need hope ambassadors in different nations. And so we're starting out simple, though, that just now on this call, and I'll get into it right away, is on Friday nights, we're going through the different yellow house corners, and they will relate to the times we're in. And so it started with the CENTCOM, the Central Commander. I had a visitation of the Lord, and I was brought into a room, and I was a reporter with a lot of other reporters, and that was during the war with Iraq. And so I see the Central Commander come in, who the Central Commander tells you how the war is going. And he's like Joshua 5, he's bright and he's lit up, and you can hardly look at him, and there's just awe in his stature, his presence, and his glory, the way he lights up. And I got to just make the transcript of the conversation. It was so funny, so fun, but it was so alive. I just can't reproduce it right now because I got it on paper, and I just love reading over and over it because the Lord was the Central Commander, and it just gave me a healed and expanded view of him. I fell so in love with him and his humor and his strength. Hi, Natasha. This is going to get really good. So, Gunnar, I have something for you, too. It's going to be really good tonight. So, the Central Commander just said a number of things. He said that the way we heard was all wrong. And he said, it's okay. I thought he'd say, you got to get a little bit better and all that. I said, no, that's just first, it's to be based on the knowledge of God. The 20 hours of adoration to 1 hour of prophecy. You got to know my nature so that you know that I would say something like that. And there's a whole lot to that. And then, two, he said it has to be based on intimacy, not information. And, it's like Mars Hill the prophets getting more and more information about even the election. Well, I believe there's a time you've heard and you just know, and then you're just so into it. And he'll give you a little more, but generally people started to say the prophets, were they all wrong? And all that kind of stuff. Well, it's not January 20th, and we just don't. It's like a newly done marriage. You don't pull up the roots out of this potted plant, these young roots all the time. It'll go in shock and die. You just feed it. And God loves faith and hope. And until the baby dies, that might be the dream. Then you move forth with it like a child with 100% confidence. And then your world isn't real shaken if he opens up something fuller and wider that he's going to do in that time. Because if it isn't President Trump coming forth, then it's something greater. But I have, a word. It's been more than a word, and it's just I want to point out what I've decreed and what I've seen happen. And not only me, it would be others, but I have want to just tell you this process of hearing. The Lord said it's based on intimacy, which intimacy comes from asking somebody questions. How you doing? What do you love to do? What's your favorite color? What's on your heart, Lord? What do you love most about this country? What do you want to see happen to this country? How do you want to see this country adore you? How do you want to see this election go? What do you want us to see about your face through it? Who do you want to raise up to be voices of you? What posture do we have? And I believe he says we're to have a posture of love, that the combative nature, if we win, so to speak, we're going to be hated more because of the way we won. If we win with love and with understanding and compassion, that means in secret we weep over the Lord shows us who, perpetrated the evil, that we weep and we ask for mercy for them, but we flush them out. But we take no delight in the wicked or people that are naive, people that are purposely doing evil because they've been hurt in some way. It's not to crush human beings, but to crush that reality and that mindset that you could ever get into that could dishonor an election and other people's votes. There's a time, in the scripture where they said they didn't blush when they did really shameful things. And it's really important that there is the opening up where people blush again. And I want to blush when I do something so insensitive to his heart, because against him and him only do I sin. In the end, it's his heart. And if I steal another person's dignity because I steal their vote, then, that's a weighty thing. And so God weighs things, and we can appeal to him because it's in us so much that, the right for somebody to have their own life, liberty, and it used to say property, that you have a realm that you get to rule, and that's your vote. That's one of the parts of your authority, your inheritance. And for that to be cheapened is something that the Lord is very jealous about. He says in Micah 4, every man their own vine and woman their own vine and fig tree, that they get to have their uniqueness and their own little plot to plow it. And it's beautiful. So we believe, like Wendy said, the prophets and the prophetesses, they're hearing, they're all echoing the same thing. And I put myself in that camp, and I've had an incredible history in hearing him. And some of you know it, and knowing the phone numbers of kings in secret, knowing the addresses in other nations of people to be at visit, and Like Jesus said, go to this place, get the donkey. And I've had that happen 100 times. I've had 1,000 times. I've had it happen where I'll call out a name and I'll see somebody in a building about to take their life, and that person hears me on their TV in New Zealand and comes in, and he was a psychologist that studied suicide. He comes in and it's an hour. I'm calling his name. I'd start to communicate, and then I just say, "Where's Arnold? Where's Arnold?" And somebody knew somehow that it was him and called him, and he came in, and his life was saved that day. Well, the possibilities of the prophetic and the possibilities of decreeing just are endless, enormous. We're just seeing the magnificence of what God has given us, and we're not downgrading or negating the power of the tools that He's given us and the change it can make. So, and what decreeing is one of those powers. I saw the mushroom cloud of 2019 troubles, and it happened right about the time Notre Dame burned. And when you see the Notre Dame cloud, it's bright orange. And I said, there's going to be this orange cloud that comes over the nations. And I said, it's going to look like trouble all over the nations. But the Lord came out of the cloud, and He had different gifts on the platter. And the platter was stunning, like tonight's gift for you. I dreamed that we all tonight would get a stick. And it was the stick that Moses used to steer the bitter waters and for them to become sweet. And that's what we are going to gain tonight, as amongst other things. And we in the Spirit can go from Thanksgiving with our family, maybe where there was challenges, to before Christmas, and keep stirring the waters, that His blessing would come in and the sweetness, and we expect it. The sweetness would come in other places that He's going to send us, and He's going to send us in the Spirit. We're going to learn how to just ascend with Him. Like Jesus said, John 3:12, I'm on the earth, but I'm in heaven. Then He can send, and we can go places with Him and use our stick. And, and there's the secret councils of the kings that we can go to, and of others, and we can decree a thing, as Job 22:21 says, and it will happen. And where do we decree that from? I'm saying, wow, tonight is, like I said, is the night where we prophesy and proclaim His decrees. And wow, what it will change in the earth, and what it's already been changing. And I want you to join in with me. And so really listen to me on this process, that we just come before the Lord with thanksgiving and praise. And Lord, we do that. And then we magnify You. We do that, Psalms 44, that it wasn't our bow that saved us. It wasn't our wisdom. It wasn't our strength. It wasn't the multitude of counselors. How were we saved? How were we saved across the nations? It wasn't good lawyers. It wasn't good doctors and the COVID. It wasn't any of those things. They were instruments of You, but we were saved by this, the light of Your presence, because You favored us. You loved us. And we're empowered with You. We step in that door where the John 10:9 that You say, step into You, become You. Or we step in and we co-labor with You. We don't pray to You, but we pray with You. And we stand next to You as those ones in Isaiah 62, royal diadems. We have royal scepters, diadems, authority to decree a matter, and it is established. We decree, like it says in Isaiah 45:11, that You say that as we just are so Your heart, so near You, so listening to You, You say, command ye me, tell me, Jesus, tell You what You want, what we want You to do. And you said that this is a year that our mentalities change completely. We don't have beggar prayers. We don't have even those intercessory prayers that have a little misery in it. You showed me the prayer building in a vision, and it was big. People were praying, but it was tilted. And we were praying. There was more hope to be in the prayer, more knowledge of you, more relational friendship with you, that we should pray and our wells would be more filled, we'd be more alive, we'd be more vital versus tired and wrought out. We get into the wrong battles so often. So, God, we give ourselves to you for this tremendous shift that we're growing stronger together. And this time has provided for us a need to grow stronger, a need to co-labor and partner with you and decree with our authority that you say through our very mouths, that we can proclaim original design, that we can decree like you, like Adam did, and it creates good where there's evil, creates substance, plants and growth when there are none, creates love where a heart's gone cold. That God, we listen to you and you say, just speak into that situation. And continually, when you're around someone, that I am able to speak in the waters above the heavens. And that ripple effect goes all across the earth. I would go into New Zealand where Sharon is, or Australia where Francis is, or South Korea where my brothers were there. And I would say a sentence that I had said back home. I decree simple devotion in Seoul, Korea, and the method for it. And they all had heard it in their spirits and in their dreams that a man would come and help them put their hand into his hands and really see them. So, God, we get to do some miracles here tonight by decreeing what you're decreeing and by you changing our cities and nations. This is not the nations that's polluted, corrupted, filthy, rich, and doesn't care. We are the Good Samaritan nation. We are the Good Samaritan nation. As we proclaim it like the Good Samaritan woman, we become it. Our Good Samaritan, that was a man, but the woman at the well, that was the Samaritan. As we proclaim Good Samaritan, she became that. She went to a town and said, listen to all he's done, and all their hearts changed. God, we're the one that can say to Nineveh, you're to be near Nineveh, and the whole town repent. We just expect it, our God. Because you're so much greater, so much lovelier, how could they not want you? So, God, we will take our authority tonight and decree according to your decrees. I'd like to just say, that 2020 is our choice. That I had in the year 2000, I was concerned about Y2K and bought a farm and with others. And that farm, we lived on, and then Y2K happened and nothing happened that night. And I had a dream that night, and I was on a spaceship with a lot of people that now I know, leaders of different movements. And the hatch opened up, and I looked out, and there was an apocalyptic devastation. So the Lord shut the hatch. He was standing next to me, and we were quiet. And then it opens up, and it's a radiant city. Everywhere is God. And then I'm confused. So I look at him, and I said, well, which is it? And he said, you choose. And so there is tonight an agreement that's to be made with each one of us. And I'm calling you to a 60-day fast. A 60-day fast. Write this down. Share it with everyone. This is the greatest fast that's ever been, that he wants to spread to 50 million. wants us to fast doubt. That we fast doubt for 60 days, that any doubtful thought that comes, we're a prisoner of hope. That means we don't allow ourselves, we believe him enough that we keep those reins on and we look to the hope. And we don't become commiserate friends where we just get into deeper and deeper ruts and can't get out. We always look for the solution. Like the 3 waves I saw coming have come in, but they're washing out. And by that, we repelled them. They cleansed some things as they came in, but they're going out. And we just think they're going to come in and devastate. No, the waves to our health. I saw the wave to our health, which was the corona, and I saw the wave to our political situation, which is obvious. And then I saw a wave to the economics in a certain way, but any of those waves could have been quickly overcome. It's just based on ecclesia. That's us agreeing with one another and with the Lord and taking our authority. And so I believe that in the realm of the financials, that we have a faith. We've been around enough to see when the economy gets hit that God brings it back and God supplies. And so some of you might be struggling, but overall, we are there where we have faith with that. Now, in the political realm, we've lost our faith in our leaders. And so they are not going to win if we don't begin to pray and bless our leaders and speak a confidence so they can be like Jimmy Stewart and It's a Wonderful, Wonderful Life. I encourage you to get that, because if we just see them as evil and we're just cursing every day, the leaders, then that's what we're going to get. And so we have a responsibility, and before the throne, he's going to be looking us in the eye and say, now, what did you do to bless, strengthen the knowledge of who they are in you? And I would say with our little army here and share the word, be texting people to come onto this call because it's going to get important, is we pray about which leaders were to send their scrolls. I had a dream about Nancy Pelosi, and she opened her front desk in her drawer desk, and she had a scroll that somebody had sent to her, and it was a scroll that she unrolled, and it was her identity, her essence, her true essence that the Lord spoke to her when she was 6. And then there was another scroll in there, and it was about corruption and taking over, the nation. It was really not a good scroll. And it hadn't been found, but would be found, and she would be found out. But I wanted her to read that other scroll first, and I wanted to see her in his arms. And so you're going to write scrolls to some of the different leaders and remind them of who they are and why they got involved in this. And you never second guess that. You just do it. And I had the Bethel children, the Morning Star children, the children from Daniel Academy, write Bush and write, not Bush, but Trump and who he was running against last time. Hillary. And just state, who they saw that they could be. It was not an endorsement of Hillary, but why they still have breath. We believe that God's ability to lead is greater than the devil's ability to deceive. And so they both got touched, and I got firsthand response. In fact, there was about 2-3 weeks where Hillary just hung around with her granddaughter and our young girl, and that was related, and just talked from a different place. But when somebody has 60 years of just junk built in their soul. It's like a pillar, and it takes a while to pull it out. But it was supernatural what happened. And Trump held up some of the decrees of the kids about who he is, and he's so childlike, he believed it. So the elderly and the foreigners are to really write letters and decree who the people are. And that's not, and we are as hope reformers, and we're to do it for one another. And so I appreciate the agreements with fasting doubt. And from each one of you agreeing. So, and everybody write in. I want to know everybody who's on here. So I came into 2020 and I knew it was my choice. And I knew I had a different level of responsibility. I knew I just couldn't let my soul grow wayward and waste my days with going in and out of personal battles and struggles. And my body and just pain in my body from this nerve condition and my exhaustion, that is something that I'm getting the grace of God and proclaiming healing. And I appreciate your decrees for me there. But what it's done is kept me in one place for a while, and it allowed me to go deeper with Him. And, but it's also allowed me to really choose the I don't care spirit. And the I don't care spirit in this way. I don't care what the enemy says about me. I don't care about what people say about me. Not that people are running around saying horrible things, but you get people like put you in a box, and I don't care. I gotta attune. I tune with not their feelings toward me, but God's feelings towards their feelings. If they don't see my original design, and they're not supporting that original design, I have a responsibility to who God created me to be and to delight in that. And if I don't, then I'm going to become less than what He wants me to be for the sake of others. So you get the I don't care spirit, and you don't care. You just care about His name and the love of Him, and you don't care about the raging of men and women. You attune, say, God, what are they hurting? How are they hurting? And and how do I step aside of that and really minister to them with wisdom? But I made a choice this year, and that was to adore Him. And this is a new encounter pathway, was to see Him. And He took me on the top of a large building, gave me this periscope, and I went from hearing of Him from the hearing of the ear to seeing Him in a much more defined way. And the telescope I had used to magnify 100, now it magnifies 10 million. Then I just look His way a little bit, and I feel like that fish on the bottom of the ocean, where we see in 4 primary colors, a fish sees in 32, that I could see the 32 colors of God. But just all the flavors of who He is, and not all, obviously, but the forgotten faces and just His tone and His nuances. And so this has been a year just to learn Jesus more. And it is for all of us this invitation into the greatest period of history. So restoration of things through the knowledge of the presence of Him. We're going to have a knowledge of God movement. We're going to have something we've never had before. It's always been based on principles. It's always been based on kind of being distant from Him. And now we're going to have preachers that preach Him. They've really met Him, and they see Him. And we'll have people that have seen Him in His different faces. And we're going to be our fellowship's going to be so wondrous. Wendy's going to say, I saw the teacher face of Him. And I'm going to sit at her feet and under hers and say, tell us what that looks like. The creative teacher. Wow. Just wow. Shauna's going to show us the face of him as an encourager and with the brilliance and the creativity and genius, how to lift a heart, how he lifts a heart. And he's done it for her, and he's doing it for her now in some unique ways, very unique ways. And she's going to be able to come to the ones that are hardened and distant and give them an encouragement, and they're going to feel him and see him, and they'll melt before him. Shauna and Chad are going to have the tears ministry where people just tenderly cry. Linda Everline, he's coming to you and he's holding up the mirror to show you there's no cracks in that mirror. There's no blemish, that you're a restored car. You're a beautiful car going along. You got sideswiped and you still feel like your door panel's knocked in. And he's going to show you how he's the God that restores and rebuilds, and even back better. A new car, there's millions of those. They come out every year with a new car, but a restored car is one of a kind. And you're going to see his eyes that's able to go into you in those deep places and restore and make even more better, and more beautiful and more alive. People feel like they get a little older after 30 or something, and they think they start to lose. You hear about athletes losing speed and all that. That's when in the spirit we become bigger, with more life, more personality, more vivaciousness, more wisdom, and more power in our prayer. It's the most powerful time in our lives. So I just encourage you that it's an awesome time for you to see the face of God and this know God, this knowing God time, this knowledge of God movement. And Leah, just from reading your books and seeing you, I just needed to write you. Thank you so much. And just awesome, to see there was something special about just the design of God that came through you in those books. And I just saw you being able to design lives and books that lead them into, I see it right in the Yellow House book for children. We talk more on that. But it's just decreeing how he sees you, and that he would entrust you like he did with Brother Lawrence or Saint Francis of Assisi or the Pilgrim's Progress writer, on a journey that takes people through their whole lives and gives them such a perspective of him in their lives. You're going to be a perspective giver, and he's going to give you his perspective of you. I've wanted to see the perspective God, and I do through a friend. His name is Bob Scott, and he's just got such. He was a 29-year-old, 80-year-old when I got with him the first time. So just each one of you, Sean, just the place of matriarchal authority. He doesn't like that you haven't believed for your authority. He hasn't liked it. And Sean, he just wants you to decree to yourself that I'm a woman of stature with authority, and you don't have to come into situations controlling, but just there'll be this authority around you that commands respect, and you're respected greatly. But in the church and other places, that your voice is an important voice and will really, really bring forth healing. If you say they're healed, you got poems in you, so you write those poems today, and they'll be healed in every way. Just short ones. It's the beauty of what you have. So I see you ones are the ones that are saying, I don't care. I'm going to go, like last night I listened to my friend Bob Jones, go take people to heaven. And, some would say, gosh, what is all that about? Well, I did it. I went to heaven with him. And, Sonia, I believe you're one that's going to take people to heaven above their issues, into that place where they see him, the, they see the singing rose garden, they see the fruit trees, that the apple you eat imparts love to you, the orange you eat it imparts hope to you, the banana imparts joy to you. You see that sea of glass and the floating down in. You see the pastures with animals that have gone before us that God loved and He has them there. You're going to see the amazing throne room where He has those elders and the people. They say, wow, 24 hours a day, and every time it's deeper, wow, wow, so stunning in Him. And you'll feel that place of perfect confidence and contentment and peace, and you'll see that He's not threatened by anything on the earth. And you're going to have the best communion with the Apostle John. And then you're going to sit in a throne, and He's going to have people line up that you've touched in your life. And He's going to have them thank you and appreciate you for what you did. And you're going to weep and weep and weep because you'll not even remember doing it. So, Sonia, you got a special call, and it's just every day you're going to get to pluck another one out. So, I just got into, we're decreeing, and I'm decreeing to you right now, and that the Lord's given us this tool to love Him and adore Him. And then He says, come on in. And first you go through the brazen laver where you love Him, you see Him high and lifted up, and then you say, wow, I'm unclean lips, or wow, I'm not as loving as you. When you see Him, but you don't do that. You say, I will be as loving as you, known as loving as you, because you're in me, I'm in you, we're just one. And there's a breathing through me. So I cleanse myself. I confess that I'm going to be a loving man. And you're saying, I wasn't as loving, but I will be. And you're moving forward. You're never allowing yourself to be stamped as, I'm not a loving person. I'm self-centered. I'm rude. No, that's not you. You might have had an action that just acted that way, but you're saying, no, I'm going to be known as the most kind man, like you, Jesus. Gentle, power under control. I'm going to carry my authority rightly. And then He says, come sit at my banqueting table. And this is where we're going to go on these Friday nights, where I'll adore, and then we'll just, in our own hearts, tell Him, I'll be known as that one that's gentle and patient and wise and not given into doubt. Again, we're fasting 60 days together till January 20th, however long that is, on doubt. And then we'll fast maybe a little bit more on that and something else. But fast out. Just see what it does, and fast doubt communications, and let Him take you into that higher place where you sit at the table of Him, and then you ask Him questions of hope. God, how are you going to do this in your divine sophistication? How are you going to bring our nation together? How are you going to cause the wounds to be healed? God, in the 150 years, you've done amazing things. When we thought we were going backwards, we went forward. God, how are you going to bring forth cities that are radiant? How are you going to bring us out of this isolation into nearness? But use this time, because it's a gift to have a honeymoon where you can sit with Him in your house. Oh, gosh, is it your nearness of Him? So just always ask Him, but then He'll answer you. And He'll say, okay, God, there's injustice in 6-7 states, and it's to be ruled by injustice. I've been in nations. I've lived 3 to 4.5 years in other nations, communistic nations, and so I'm not unlearned in what that feels like and to be ruled in that way. And there's a difference with us. We have an inheritance, and we were especially settled with the idea of the freedom to worship, the freedom to know Him, the freedom talk to him, the freedom to hear him, the freedom to speak from him, the freedom to love others in him. And it just didn't happen that way in many nations. They just weren't conceived by the same proposition. And they're not yearning for him. And we have lots of us that are a remnant, are yearning for him more than a remnant. It's like Elijah. There's many out there. There's many just needing to know what he wants them to do. And that's what we're going to decree, is that he has an assignment for everybody. And we all get to participate in seeing his will go forth across this nation. So, tell us. So I'm going to share with you for a minute now just what's been happening in my decreeing time. And then on Friday nights, we'll decree together. And I might do it more often where we just jump in, Sean and Amen, Walker, we just jump in, Sean Lady, and we jump in and we just decree together. And that I have you write in your decrees. I want to figure out a way that you could decree with me where I can have your voice. And we do that. And what we're going to do is keep track of a miracle manual and the things that we decree. We were saying we will decree, and then we'll keep track of it. I'm getting thrown off a little bit by Gunner writing stuff. So I love you, Gunner. You're one of our hope ambassadors. Bring people to this call, and you can go 61 days. So this is not just decreeing. This is having the faith and the hope to see the answers, and then noting them. So I'm going to note you a few. Okay, I decreed 2 years ago, and it's known by everybody, and Danny can write it up, about the little woman in a shoe that had so many children she didn't know what to do. Her name was Amy. That it wouldn't happen the first time, and I even named who it would happen for, and it would happen the second time. So that's a miracle, and that happened. And so then I just I decreed the God of the Trump card, and that was back in the year 2000. I didn't know it'd be a man named Trump, and that he would trump things and bring in some certain policies which he has had done, and for Israel, but also for our land, that was appropriate, that are awesome. So, and I'm speaking from my own heart. I can speak what I've tasted, touched, smelt, felt. And Danny can tell you more than me, but I'm just going to tell you what was heightened for me, and I'm going to jump to now, because there's been, as soon as, I just tell you this part, that I was in Australia in 2016 and decreed for their nation that their planes would be up and flying. And I was with their parliament, their leaders, and they said, no way. And then after I decreed it, and one of their senators decreed it, the planes were supposed to be down for 9 months. Their planes were up in 3 days. And supernatural miracles. And just decreeing it. Norway, I got called by the king, 6 a.m., and Bob Fraser and Bruce Birchfield, they were having problems. And, they didn't tell me what the problem was. I said, here it is, and I'm tired driving to a Bible study. The car's breaking down. It's ice cold. I dumped my coffee in my lap, and I tell them, Section 402, your articles of incorporation, is you got to get rid of it, and you got to decree a new thing. And it was really a new thing about their youth and about how to nurture their youth. And it was, I won't go into it publicly, but I ended up going over their constitution with them, the president and 300 leaders. We met, and then met with about 14,000. And I just had to pray through their constitution, and I decreed their constitution all one night with Ruth, who was the president's daughter-in-law, and her husband's looks like he's going to be that in a while, and the president. But I just decreed these freedoms for Norway, and they ratified their constitution in 2014, added those ingredients in. And I was a janitor. I owned a cleaning business. And the same thing happened in Australia. I declared freedoms for Australia that were unique to them. And they just a couple of weeks ago were praying for the United States, called it a day to pray for the United States. And then they said, they decreed for us, or they spoke our freedoms over us. This is a secular, it's in the public squares, it's in the malls. And they said, so we're going to declare the freedoms for them. Because they do, the other nations see what we're dealing with, that it could be, socialism, which we're not just fundamentalists or these hardcore evangelicals that don't know anything. No, there's a way of God where men don't rule men and keep God out, and there's just no way you can legislate that. Even though the Bible says share everything in common, you can't legislate it. It'll never work. It'll crush a people. It's got to be voluntary out of love. And the government has not got the authority to rule in those realms. God has clear authority boundaries for the 7 arenas of life. And so, men get mixed up because they want more power in different areas. And so we just decree the rightful boundaries for the different authority realms, and we declare for righteous leadership. We just ask the Lord, what's He want to trumpet at this time? But my friend, who's a Supreme Court Justice in Australia, his son was in Sydney and walking through the public square and then a mall, and here's my voice. They just made it quiet at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm decreeing the freedoms over Australia. So they had made a CD out of it. I have it. I would love you to get it, order it on our webpage, because it applies to America. And I did it for New Zealand and for Norway. So, but just decreeing that I would ask him a question. And I said, Lord, who are you to our nation right now? And Josephus said that the most beautiful attribute of Jesus was his unpretentiousness, that there was no pretending in him. So I just declared him, and God really touched me with that. The non-pretending God. And He wanted me to declare that decree, that we would not be a pretending nation, that would be authentic. And in that, then the truth comes out. And that the truth would gain momentum in heaven and on earth. And then He had me decree the second thing was, and this was a month ago, and so now they've come forth. They're called whistleblowers, and there's more of them and more of them. And I would call them heralders, because they're heralding the truth in the city squares, and it's a noble thing. Well, unbeknownst to me, they would come. He had me at that time. I said, well, what else would you have me decree? And he said, when you started to herald that the gospel was a hopeful reality, people would say that you didn't understand. It was prosperity gospel. Nobody gets hurt, all that stuff. And I just got lambasted as a screedy business guy that, just wants everybody to have comfort as their God, and so far away from who I am. But the demons of misunderstanding come, and even the best friends can get confused if they're not set and fixed in their opinion of you, and give you at least a second chance, ask you questions. But so that was the second thing that the Lord said that blew me away. as he said, decree that the spirit of misunderstanding or the antithesis demon can't land on them, and that their true testimony will stand and melt hearts and actually cause senators and others in private to weep. And so what I'm saying is that the whistleblowers or those that are heralding the truth are getting attacked for it. But he said it won't land, it won't stick. And so what I have saw from that decree is I saw people come forth and decree, and they were so themselves, unpretentious. And one of them, the woman that was too bombastic and just coming after the Democrats, the Dominion contractor, she was herself at least. She was authentic, but she looks unhinged. But I believe that the Lord's going to honor her testimony because she's just got a lot of personality, a lot of passion. But mostly, people were unpretentious, without offense. They were amazing people that they could be there 4 or 6 days and patient, being treated the way they were treated. And that testimony, when you look into that person's eyes, that's unpretentious and that authentic, the antithesis demon that says you're saying righteousness and we believe you're unrighteous, or you're saying love and we see hate. And they're saying love for the nation. They're not saying love for a candidate, like the Lynn Wood came out and said, I don't care who wins. I just more care about the process. Well, hopefully it does, but that cannot be his motive as an attorney and leading the case. I mean, you really got to believe that it's noble man devise noble plans, and by noble plans they sin. That it's not how we just Mr. Trump gets in the office or Joe Biden. It's not that they get in only, it's how they get there. And so we got to keep our integrity along the way. But the Lord just told me, look, people are going to rise up, and I was to decree this with pen, and they're going to write like Lincoln wrote. They're going to write in a way that is stunning and poetic and deep. And we're going to see letters like that come forth from you and to different leaders and be posted and engraved in walls during this time. Don't be surprised. 7 years ago, our nation brought forth, conceived in this liberty, that those statements are going to be etched in time forever about, who God is and how he wants to love us in this time. And they won't be passe. And so I decree that people would write, in a way that nobody could disagree. It'd be the nature of Jesus, and they'd all say, we want that. And so I see who it's going to come from. There's going to be a resurgence of Dick Morris. There's going to be a resurgence of some of our prophetic people that are going to eclipse the realm of the church. I mean, I always love the church and in the church, but they're going to be able to speak in a way that the philosopher can read it, the environmentalist can read it, and that it makes sense to the human decency of all. And I don't feel released right now to say who, but some of you on this call, I encouraged one about how they see themselves, because you're going to write. You're going to write people that you've worked with, people that you've loved, and how it's such time is this for them, and just about the state of affairs. There's a perspective that's unique from the perspective people on this call. I've declared that they would write against an injustice, and a judge would read it, and he would see it and see the injustice. and that the important law cases would go through, that they would have value and they would have weight, and then they'd be referred to by all as wisdom and righteousness. And this idea, there's so much more to it than just that there was fraud. There's so much more to it that's going to be exposed when people start to just hate in a way where they get so blinded. And there's going to be a way to speak to that in a way that liberates our nation. So he showed me on December 12th, he had me decree about a month ago, December 12th, because it's my son's birthday, 12/12, that my son would get to see something in our nation, and that there'd be people that would meet in Washington, and they'd kneel and they'd see him, and they have a visit from Jesus, and there'd be close to 1 million of them. And I don't know if anything's happening December 12th, but that's the date he gave me, and to decree it, and that the love of the Son of God would be so authentic that it would be to the Grinches that want to steal Christmas. That's a real place we're living, that they'd see that they're happy. They're happy with their God, and that they be drawn en masse to that. It's going to happen. And that there would be rallies all across our nation in different cities and places that would declare the appreciation and attunement. We got a third party coming forth, an attunement party that attunes to who God desires to be in our nation and in his heart. And I believe it's a birthing out of the Republican Party where it's not a forced nationalistic, love of our nation, but it's about him and about his freedoms, and that people voluntarily see it. It'll be so articulated in our letters to different ones that we're going to have people there like Jimmy Stewart in It's a Wonderful, Wonderful Life. That first night, he sat down and wrote everybody, just poetically, just the love of his nation, the love of his God first, and what the freedoms they were to have in a nation. We're going to extol freedoms. We're going to show what the freedom of speech looks like versus the big tech things that are happening. And then some of us are going to write. I'm going to write one of the major men from Facebook or one of the others, and I have the words to tell them of the childhood and their youth, and to bring them into a bigger picture and bigger potential for what God gave them this opportunity to open up communications that are wondrous throughout the earth that can be used for such good. So, he shared with me the decree, and that the U.S. will be a place where he'll turn bitter waters into sweet. And I saw human beings that would be touched in that way. And I saw some in this group called Politico. I don't know the group, but I just listened to him, and he said, decree that they would feel loved and they'd come out of this reaction out of hurt. He said, decree that Sean White or Sean King, he said, Sean, that's to be a king in May is now a king in this BLM and in some of the things that are going on that are not good, and I believe this will get to him. And I just want to say, Sean, you had a tough childhood, and you were treated as less than, and you had to fight, and you're not a fighter in that way, but you became that way out of self-preservation, and you can put your dukes down. And God's sending along Jeff. That's going to be essential to just give you, he's going to speak to you with love and wisdom, and you're going to say, where's that come from? And he's going to hold a book up, from his backpack, and it'll be a Bible, and you listen. Warren Buffett, he's coming to you, and he's meeting you, and some of the things that you did playfully in the days gone by, and you're a patriarch in our nation, but you allowed some, things that weren't good, and you know the parties where they pronounce a king and give the king a woman for a year, and just part of the trappings of the world that comes along with, like with my fraternity world. We just had something. Certain groups have certain policies that everybody just kind of goes with, but he's here to bring the greatest hope to our nation. But it's a hope in God, and He wants to meet you. And so I decree that He'll meet you. And at this time of election, you'll stand up for what's right. And you wouldn't have favor on President Trump. Some of you would have favor on him. He'd put his dukes down, and he'd be able to be a kinder and more patriarchal man, because he's just got to fight a level of demons. And so the Lord, I just decree, is going to win this one through tenderness. He's going to fill us up so much through this. He's going to cause us to get stronger. It's not a weary battle. It's not we're freaking out every day because we're going to have a Senate that goes the wrong way. No, this is a second Jesus movement with wisdom, and we're decreeing that. And I have probably about 20 pages of decrees that I just got in secret, like the decree with me, a citizen named Alicia from Philadelphia will open up and say how she programmed those computers that day. And she'll be so full of life because she'll feel free from this burden she's carrying. And an Emar, where her rage, and it might be the woman that wears the hairdress, that's a senator. I think that was who she was. I don't know if her name was right, but I saw her rage melt away because somebody met her with a kind God. And I know the person, and I'm going to call a person. And this wave would come over her of love, and the winds of trouble that have tried to blow on her mind would be changed to the winds of restoration. And she'd get a glimpse of what God had given us as a nation at first. She'd want that, bring that restoration. And there was God's love was rising for a Devin Nunes, senator in California. I don't know if I got the name right, but just he was leading this one to repentance, and this one will get this message. And I know what you did, and I know just lives involved, and it's just. You got to know that what your grandmother said to you about you was true. Just remember that. So be deputized, some of you that are listening, for us to send this to some of these people. Hillary Clinton's going to get another chance where the God of Hope's going to come to her heart, and she's going to be praised versus a byword by the end of her days. And that's what I saw in original design. I'm going to stick to that. And she'd actually say something favorable about, President Trump and his determination. There'd be this ability to see not somebody that's trying to control things, but somebody that's determined with rights, But God was going to come and touch the Como brothers, the governor of New York and the other one, to remember the faith of their mother. And these just kind of went on into their own definition. Love their mom, but no, they're going to get to see the deep-seated faith of their mother and they're going to be able to view Christians in the Lord as brothers, real brothers. They will not be their enemy. I decree it. We're going to see it. I'm standing with the Lord and decreeing it. And the elderly will rise up and be led by a vote. And it was, the Lord spoke of Voight, Voight, I believe. And he will help bring the restoration with the older ones and give them their strength. And he'll bring us across into Nineveh and speak the truth, and then love win. And I believe he was an actor, and he's got the authority to release angels. Some of that will be, David Lee will help set people free in paradise, or I'm in Pasadena, and they're going to be real key ones that will be sent to entrepreneurs that are helping business. Politicians make decisions right now. Karen Go has a reach as a mayor of Bakersfield that she's going to be seen by Kevin McCarthy, and she's going to decree to him that he was birthed for such a time as this, and he's going to be able to speak to dominion. And the Lord's going to, and we're decreeing it, have dominion over dominion. And there's ones that were Sauls that were trying to kill the Christians that are going to become Pauls, and they're going to have visitations that knock them off their horse. And Jacqueline, I don't know where you live, but you're going to pray with David Lee to see people set free. And Pasadena is going to be a place of power. And you tell Cheon of Hartley to decree that this is the hour of power for Pasadena. Tell Cheon to remember the days at 2020 Woodland. It's a prophetic place that he started at. Tell Cheon it's time to release the authority of God, invite in political officials that disagree, and have a civil discourse. And that God would empower him to speak from the heart and wisdom, and he would be able to see the many turn to the Lord in a key area. I can see it. My eyes are tired. Wendy, yes. Gunner, right on to all of this. Gunner, there's a place that I saw in Nashville, and I believe that you said you were in Nashville, but I saw somebody in there that you were to go to, and to unlock, you're to go to James Gall, and tell him this is his most important time. And he's going to be able to speak with perspective to the emotions that have been destroyed of some of the leaders. And he has been concerned about being a leader himself. That's always, James was going to be a leader, and was a leader, obviously. But his greatest call is to be a Nehemiah now and to hold up the arms of the kings. And even though his back is hurting, those things, just don't let him whine. Don't let him, it's not diaper time. And I'm speaking to me. Bob Jones said, you big baby, get up. This little demon's little challenge, that little nation, the USA, sits in the palm of his hands. He can do anything with it. Well, and I got to remember today who he told me about Nashville that was going to be someone that helped bring the nation near. And I remember Gunner, but let's just hear me just Roland and Heidi Baker. Sharon, you to write them a letter of their substantial faith, and that the God has called them to cross the line, and say it's from me, that their worship is in the church, it's for the poor, but their worship is to bring forth life in the political arena, that they will have the authority and the confidence that their God will be bigger in the political arena, and God's going to aim them towards the AOC lady in the United States. I saw it, I decree it, I stick with it. So I'm going to close, but pray for and decree his presence in Pennsylvania, that his presence is going to show up on all the nooks and the crannies, and going to bring in Philadelphia, where it's a place of brotherly love. The angels of love, brotherly love, are coming forward. And so we're going to release it. And Kiss, you help release it. And that the kisses of Philadelphia, the honesty of the marvelous comrades that come forth with an honesty for the Lord, not just for this human loyalty, but they're going to have a loyalty to God. That's going to be the shift. And we decree it. And we decree worship in Wisconsin, that people are going to get so touched by the scroll the Lord hands them and a higher calling they have, that are going to come clean with things, because they don't want anything to step in the way of their love for him. And he's going to show himself mighty in Michigan. He's going to come with, like Joshua 5, with great authority. And there's going to be one that rises up with a voice that we're going to be very surprised of. Pray for Barry Sanders. He's going to talk about the honor of his time in Detroit and the people of Detroit. He's not going to be one that slaps him in the face, but he's just going to call him to something higher. So, near Nashville, Compassionate Kansas City, decree for the Hunts. They own the stadiums, and I've talked to them about filling the stadiums with people worshiping. And there's a response. There's those laws, but decree that I'd have a further conversation, and with Gary Spaney, who's in charge of the buildings for them, and that there would be compassion that comes out of Kansas City for this whole nation. Decree that Carson Ross, the mayor of Blue Springs, will go with me, and a couple of others. And so I encourage you to go up in the Spirit, ask God to questions, and then allow him to ask him for names, ask him for places, ask him to write things down. We have more authority than politicians. I went up with the Lord and decreed that they would find, and you all heard me. Go back and listen, because these things just shouldn't float into the distance. I mean, how exact could it be? I told Giuliani and his team, through somebody else, go and you're going to find that they took ballots from underneath the table, and they all night counted these ballots. And I described what the setting looked like, two of them. One they found. They just found it. It's just been on camera. It's just conclusive evidence that they're pulling ballots out from underneath tables after they sent everybody to go on for the night. And I said it's going to be the Alexander table. Well, for some reason, my little brother said they're calling it the Alexander table. I didn't know that. God's bringing his word clearly. And I said, and that would shock the world, because there's no way you can deny that. And that is not just a few people, it's massive. And I said, after that, they would find out in the gymnasium in Philadelphia that there was 4 boxes of votes that were hidden by a curtain underneath the table, underneath the basketball goal. And that's going to come out. I decreed it, and that it would be exposed, and it had a huge amount of ballots in it. It had to be 40,000. And Same thing. Saw the ones. I saw a couple of their names. One was Sally. And this information is in the hands of some people that have a way. They're in enough authority that they can take it to the right places. So decree the resurrection of Phil Klein. Phil Klein was the one who fought abortion and loved babies, and he was a college fraternity brother and just an awesome heart. And he got demolished because he had to hide in my little brother's attic for a while because the Attorney General of Kansas stood against abortion, which was huge in Kansas, and now it isn't because he made it a place where life, was valued. He made it a place where it was good to love the baby in the womb. Now he's making our nation. He's come from a place of liberty. God's going to bring him forth to make it a nation that loves to be honest and authentic and hear each other's heart. And people that were part of the fraud are going to be ready to be honest and authentic and see how wrong it was to steal another's identity and vote. So there are others. Shannon Groves will come forth with groves of light. Decree that. And that's all I say. There was a Jenna that I decreed, and now I believe she's a lawyer, and that she would make common sense, real, and she would convince the unconvincible, and she wasn't afraid to share with them in a way that wasn't demeaning but brought forth truth. So there was one named Brian that had been part of the Georgia process, and that he was being condemned, and he had his own reasons for doing some things, but now he's awakening. Some, they're just standing against what they feel like is religious pressure and traditional pressure, like if you've been in a traditional church and they put their rules on you. And it's not anywhere near that, but when you paint your life in that way, you get distorted. And there'd be someone that would come along and understand Brian's pain and bring Brian into an honorable decision because it's bigger than just being offended. There was a declaration where a fence was broken. And this is a time that we're going to see leaders that are unable to be offended, but see a bit the importance for this decision for our future. So I have said enough. Daniel Falls says in Georgia, David Perdue got 50% of the vote and doesn't need to go through the January 5th runoff. Is that a fact, Daniel, that he doesn't have to say that? Jack, I'm so happy you're writing down the times where I speak about different people, and we can send that to them. I know tonight's been long. So Danny just confirmed that with us, that there were 2 Senate runoffs in Georgia. Let me say there's one that a man with a patch on his eye, James Jones or someone like that. I want to say the name right. That's not a good name from the pad, but that wasn't his name. But they're going to find out that his Senate race was fixed against him. And so I'm decreeing that. He's one that won. So the Lord's not going to let that be taken from them. So I love all you guys, and thank you for listening. And just be ready on Friday nights to decree. Get the message out. I've been inconsistent the last couple of weeks because I've been just fighting with this nerve condition. But I want to encourage you to I'll be consistent on Friday nights, and we decree together, and we're going to figure out how to do that. But before we get together next time, adore him and then ask him, and I'll post some specific questions. And then every morning, I'm going to, just show us how to adore in situations like this with hope prayer. And I, just adore with me in the mornings. So bless you, Kish, so much. And Shauna, I love you, and Chad. And Linda, let's keep declaring. And any of you write prayers, I'm going to post them. You have prayers for I was with the assistants to Mike Pence that came to my house this week, and it was the most wonderful time. And so, those kind of things, if you get a word or a thought, send them to me and I'll get them to the right places. So we are going to, Daniel Falls, focusing on the Senate race in Georgia, and it's something to be focused on, and it's something that's going to even bring more light to what God is wanting to do on bringing light to our nation. Mike Town, love you. Please come by and visit me. We'll check, and Wendy will talk about just getting this curriculum out that gives people the real pathway. So if anybody can do it, you can do it. You're awesome in that. Sonia, thank you so much. Love you. Linda, there's an address on the webpage. And if not, Lori, who's usually on here, is helping me with my communications, because I just haven't, they tell me to have 2 40-minute meetings a day and then rest to just make sure I reboot. And so I'm having Linda helping me with communications. Lori's been doing great. Her health is getting better. So anybody else wants to help with communications or help with corporate prophetic, I write words and then send it to a few so they can edit and clean it up and then send it back to me, or send it to Elijah List and a few other things. So we just got some fun things and some good opportunities. So Gunnar, thank you for being on. Let's talk again so that you can we just need to cut you loose as the hope ambassador of the earth. All right. Jacqueline, you're right. Lori's the bomb and hope. I love you guys. This is fun. We'll keep it up, and I'll check in with you this week. Okay, bye-bye.